Today on CityCast Austin, there are a lot of exciting things in the works in Travis County, from building up quality, affordable childcare to addressing mental health and addiction. And now there's even the possibility of a commuter train from Austin to San Antonio. Judge Andy Brown is here to bring us up to speed. It's Monday, January 6th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Judge Andy Brown, Travis County Judge. Hello, thank you for being here with me again. It's good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
I know you are busy, so we're going to get right into it. We have just kicked off the new year, and I want to ask you off top, what is your New Year's resolution or wish for Travis County?
Man, my wish for Travis County is that we can make serious progress on this mental health diversion center effort. We've done so much work on it over the past couple of years, and I think we're heading towards a place where we're going to know exactly what it is that we want there. We're going to have, hopefully, the ability to build it there, the funds to do it, and the team and the sort of, buy-in and participation from the community to actually get it done.
So this is the perfect time to be talking about mental health because we're fresh off of having holidays with our families, some of us. So we talked about this before when you were here last time, but can you give us like a quick reminder of what this is?
Mental health has always been a big issue. I think it's not been talked about enough over at least most of my lifetime. And since COVID, we saw a huge spike in the number of people who are in our jail who have significant unmet mental health needs. And our jail, so we're the Travis County government. We operate on your property taxes. And if you're a renter, you still pay property taxes through your rent. And the single largest line item expense of our budget is the county jail. And the criminal justice system generally is a huge part of it as well. And what we're seeing is that there are so many people in the jail that do not need to be there. They're there because they have not had access to mental health care and medications, and they have interacted with the justice system and ended up in jail. They've broken a law, but the reason why they have done that, in my opinion, is because they have this huge unmet mental health need. And so what we did, me, Commissioner Howard, a lot of other folks, when I started looking at what other communities do better and how we can be more like them. And so we looked in Nashville, Tucson, Arizona, Miami. There's a lot of places around the country that have built a mental health diversion center. Even Lubbock, Texas has had one since 1994 or so. And the idea there is that, law enforcement, people that work in the jail, people that work in law enforcement, they are not necessarily trained to work with people who have mental health needs.
Right.
What we need to do is get these people who have mental health needs into a place where they have professionals who dedicate their lives and are trained specifically on how to work with them. And so that's what a mental health diversion center is. It's to help get these people away from the criminal justice system to where law enforcement does not have to interact with them. And instead, these people can get stable housing, a permanent solution, and stop cycling in between the jail and the streets and the jail and the streets.
I, for one, am excited about it. I think it's brilliant, and I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of taxes, November voters approved a tax rate increase to pay for childcare, summertime and after-school programs for low-income families and the like. Property taxpayers are seeing this increase now on this year's bill, but we heard that more than 8,000 people are on the wait list for childcare. Do we know when folks are going to be able to enroll in these programs yet?
Yeah, so I was really happy that it passed with almost 60% of the vote. Is 59.43% of the vote.
Yeah.
Travis County voters.
Yeah.
We all decided to invest in high quality, affordable childcare and after school programming. And the program the funding comes in starting in January. And so in the early part of this year, we're going to start increasing funding to organizations that already provide childcare to add additional slots. And then in year 2 is when we will have a competitive process where new childcare providers, maybe non-traditional hours childcare providers in parts of the county where there's a childcare desert right now, we're really going to encourage new ideas and new entities to apply to us, and then award the money in that way, so that there's new additional childcare in areas where we currently don't have it.
Do we know how they're going to be staffed, or is it going to be kind of left up to those already existing entities to do that?
Yeah, so the state of Texas actually has very strong requirements and licensing requirements for any childcare provider in Texas. And so these folks will follow those ratios and
Nice.
those requirements and background checks, everything like that. What this will do is provide funding for childcare providers to do everything that a childcare provider does. So if today there's a childcare provider who maybe is providing care for 10 kids ages 0 to 3, this will give that childcare provider the confidence to double their staff and say, look, we know we've won this award from the county. We know that we're going to have funding for the foreseeable future from the county to expand our operation. So we're going to hire staff, maybe expand our space to where now we're going to provide care for 20 kids. And that means that the county will fund them. They then the family that goes there then will have affordable childcare based on their income to go there. And so the end result is that we'll have more providers in the county in the long term that will have higher quality childcare for more people in Travis County, and hopefully eliminate those wait lists.
Okay, this is such a big deal. First of all, the high amount of people that voted to do this, it makes me feel really proud and excited about Austin and Travis County and what we do. But also, this is going to be a game changer for so many people that I know. I like that there's this approach to where you already have existing providers that are kind of buying into it, because I think it's going to cut down on how long it's going to take to get it going.
Yeah, that's the idea. We've got the taxpayers have invested, and we want to get it going as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do in the first year. And it'll take a little bit like, one of the things I'm really excited about is employers. We have a program that's called the Business Government Alliance, where businesses that have a lot of employers can make some contributions to it. And then we could also maybe match those, and that way make it more of a norm that especially the larger providers in Travis County actually are providing childcare as part of what they offer their employees, so that people can make that decision. You know what? I want great childcare for my kids, but I also want to go back to work, and I want to improve my situation. And that is what this will do, I hope.
Yeah, love it. So I've been hearing some buzz about the concept of a passenger train between here and San Antonio.
Yeah.
And so there is now federal money available if there's a local match. What's going on with the train? Who is it going to benefit? Like, bring us up to speed a little bit.
Yeah. So we live in, Austin, Travis counties, and Williamson County is right next door. We're in one of the fastest growing regions in the country, in the world. Bexar County and its surrounding regions are also one of the fastest growing regions in the country and in the world. And it is just crazy that we don't have good commuter rail or passenger rail in between these two communities. I have not yet found two cities or regions that are this large, that are growing this fast anywhere in the world, that don't have great interconnectivity with passenger rail. I think we've got something like 5 million people today in this super region between Travis County, Williamson County, and then Bexar County and surrounding counties. By 2050, we're supposed to have 8 million in this area. And so we need more than just a highway to get back and forth. And so, me and Judge Sakai from Bexar County and some others have been looking at this and set up this group, TPRAC, to get local governments together to start advocating for this.
You said TPRAC?
Mm-hmm.
What does that stand for?
TPRAC stands for the Texas Passenger Rail Advisory Committee. We have a letter now that a lot of us have signed, and we're still getting more people to sign, that we'll send to the legislature asking them to put $300 million into the Rail Relocation Fund, which is the fund at the state of Texas that could be used for improving passenger rail in Texas. And the idea there is that at least under the Biden administration, and I'm hopeful this will continue, and I have reason to think that something like this will continue, the federal government would pay 80% of the cost of expanding passenger rail, and we'd pay 20%. And so we got an estimate from an engineering company that does this kind of thing to look at the tracks between Taylor, where Samsung is, and San Antonio. And right now, those tracks are in terrible condition. So the Amtrak trains, which in other parts of the country can go a lot faster, go between 30 and 60 miles an hour on this track. And I've taken that train many times. I love it. I love it because it's a train, but it is slow.
Yeah.
We rode that train with Andy Byford, who is one of the top folks at Amtrak who works on this. And he said, look, if y'all could just improve the quality of the rail, even if you had the same trains running on it, you could go closer to 100 miles. You can go 100 miles an hour instead of 30 to 60 miles an hour. Yeah. The cost of that is about $1 billion, which is a lot of money when you say that word. But in the scheme of things, compared to what we spend on highways in the state, it is
Nothing.
Not that much. Yeah. And so what we're trying to do, we're working with TxDOT, the Texas Department of Transportation. They have applied for these federal grants to do studies of this part of the rail system as well as others. The end goal, my end goal with this, is to add 3 more Amtrak trains to this region to improve those tracks, to get a good partnership with Union Pacific, because it's going to benefit them too, having these better, higher speed tracks. And it's not high speed, it's just higher speed tracks will help the freight that goes on there too. And if we can show people how easy that is, and while I-35 is under construction for at least the next 10 years between here and San Antonio, if we could get this train going in that same time, I think we would really benefit from it. People could live in San Marcos and work in Austin or work in San Antonio and commute reliably each day. People could go see the Spurs play at night and come back. San Antonio folks could come see Austin FC play at night and come back.
Yeah.
There's really just a ton of benefits. And it's one of those things, frankly, like the Mental Health Diversion Center, that I have not heard any opposition to. There's Republicans and Democrats at the legislature that like this concept. Folks, statewide Republicans that I've talked to about this think it is a good project and don't have kind of the same concerns with other rail projects in Texas. And so we're trying to make it happen.
Okay. And has this ever been tried before? Has this effort been tried before?
Not precisely. There are, I think, 2 notable efforts for increasing rail in Central Texas. One was back in the day, I remember Lieutenant Governor Ben Barnes tried this, where it was an effort to connect Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio and or Austin with high-speed rail. And my understanding is airlines did not like it because they saw that as competition.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And so that failed. Today, my understanding is that same sentiment is not there with the airlines. They make a lot more money on the longer haul flights, and this shorter haul stuff doesn't bother them. So I think the situation's improved. There was also an effort called Lone Star Rail that would have gone from Austin to San Antonio, maybe Williamson County, very similar route. It was a effort that made it a long way, but did not get across the final push. And that died for, I think, a myriad of reasons. But I think the politics today are very different. I think the fact of our growth is different. And, again, I'm just not seeing any opposition, Republican or Democrat, from folks at the legislature. We are still looking for a champion at the legislature, because I know I
was going to ask you, is there anything necessary at the state legislature level?
Yeah. So this is just a bunch of local folks like me, but to make it happen, it's going to have to be the Texas legislature. And I know they've got the money. I think they could do this. They could come up with the $250-300 million to do that match. It's just, there's a lot of priorities at the legislature, obviously, that folks have. And so we're trying to get this up there.
So the chances of it becoming a reality are better if someone from the state legislature just comes in and is like, we need this, let's do it, let's go. And we need it quickly.
Yeah. And I think there's some folks at the state legislature, especially on the Senate side, that do not like the concept of high-speed rail going from Dallas to Houston. And that's the part that has gotten the most publicity. And I think the challenges with that is that part of it goes through private land on, I guess, new right-of-ways. This is not that, though. The right-of-way already exists between Taylor and San Antonio. There's trains running on it already, and it's not high speed. It's higher speed. And so
Oh yeah, let's get into these semantics. I like it.
there you
I
go.
like
There you go.
it.
Yes.
Could we have this before the 10 years of the highway stuff is up?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we were able to pass it this session and got a champion there, and obviously I'm a Democrat, but this is a very Republican legislature, and if they are able to pass it and say, "Hey, Trump administration, we've passed this amount. We want y'all to help us with the rest." I feel good that the Trump administration would listen to the Texas legislature and the leaders
Yeah.
there in saying this. So I think it could go quickly. It's not new track. It's just fixing the old one. So I think that's something that could happen in a couple of years. Yeah.
I mean, to your point, it seems like a no-brainer to me. There are already people that can't afford to live in Austin,
Yeah.
that are having to live in, San Marcos. I know people that live in New Braunfels and commute back and forth. The access alone feels like it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't, and Samsung is about to be its own little city. I don't know. It just seems so smart. It seems like a
Yeah.
no-brainer to me because as soon as Samsung and Taylor is up and running, that's it. People think there's traffic now, but
Yeah.
once like that Samsung has reached even half of what they expected.
I took the train up to Taylor. So right now, you could take the Amtrak to Taylor every day. It leaves Austin about 9:30 a.m., gets to Taylor about 40 minutes later, and there's a stop in downtown Taylor. And so I a couple of weeks ago, took my kids up there for breakfast. My wife drove up there to meet us because the return train doesn't come back till 6:30. But as far as getting to Taylor and being able to walk around downtown, it's a small town, and that Samsung factory is massive. And to your point, things are about to change up there with the thousands of employees they're going to have at Samsung. And so, yeah, we really need a better way to get up there.
So recently, y'all announced that accidental opioid overdose deaths in the first half of 2024 were down 19% from the first half of 2023. I'm curious, why do you think these numbers are going down? Because this is great.
Yeah, I think it's great news. I think that it's still the number one cause of death here, though. So there's still a lot of work to do on it. But for several years there, we were just really struggling. That number just kept going up, and we kept trying to do things, and it was hard to tell if it was making a dent. My sense is that the fact that we got Narcan and naloxone out in the community pretty widely, especially to this population, the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance has done great work getting it out to populations of people who use these drugs. There's Narcan vending machines in a couple of places. We've tried to make access very easy to people. I carry one with me just in case I run into somebody who's overdosing, and we've encouraged others to do the same, whether or not they use these drugs. And so I think the prevalence of Narcan and the education about Narcan that Travis County has done, Harm Reduction Alliance, Austin Public Health, City of Austin, and the state of Texas has distributed a lot of Narcan as well. So I think that is helping. I think the next step, though, is obviously trying to get that number to zero, because every overdose death is a preventable death, especially when you have Narcan that can treat opioid overdoses. But we still need to get to the root cause of why so many people are overdosing. I think a lot of that goes back to our first discussion about the Mental Health Diversion Center, making mental health and recovery programs more accessible for people who want it. The Sobering Center here, the Austin Travis County Sobering Center, has done great work with that. It's a place where police can take folks who are drunk and walking. They not drunk and driving, but if they're drunk and walking or sitting or lying down or whatever, they can take them there instead of jail, instead of citing them for public intoxication. It's a safe place to sober up overnight. And the Sobering Center is expanding. They just finished construction on the second floor. Now they're going to have a place where people who want to go into recovery can hang out there a little bit longer as they are placed in a recovery program. So I think we need to do more work on that to really get that number down.
I'm hearing people talk about Narcan more than I think I've ever heard, ever. It's definitely, I think, seeping into just casual conversations. And I think the reason that that is important is because it shifts how we look at people that are struggling with addiction issues. And because I think if you can humanize people and be like, oh, like I can have a little bit of responsibility in this and I can be helpful versus an us versus them kind of mentality that sometimes comes up, people realizing like, oh, I can do something too. I could just carry this Narcan and it can help another person. It humanizes people. But it makes me really proud of Austin Travis County. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Health and Human Services got like 1.6 million federal grant for like a jail-based substance use intake program. Does that have anything? Are those two connected at all? Is that helping things at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the federal government has recognized this is a problem nationwide of people overdosing. And one thing that's really hard for us from a public health perspective is to figure out the exact circumstances of who is overdosing and when and why and all of that. Because the only time we know of someone exactly like what drugs they had in their system and where they died is if they die and if their body goes to the medical examiner. So the number of deaths from overdoses, we know that exactly. What we don't know is the number of people who are overdosing but reversing their overdoses in the community and not reporting it. There's a lot of areas where we don't know what the help is that is needed other than giving Narcan. One area that we looked at and found out exactly what the area of help that is needed is people who leave jail. Because if you're in jail for a period of time and therefore obviously not using opioids, your tolerance goes up. In fact, you're 8 times more likely to die in the first 6 months after leaving jail than people in our community in general. It's staggering. And so what this grant does is exactly that. And so it allows us to buy long-acting injectables, which are more expensive than regular methadone or buprenorphine, and I can never say that last one, which are medically assisted treatment drugs. So if you're like, you know what, I want to stop using opioids, you can go to a clinic that offers methadone. That way your body is no longer physically craving the drug. This is a longer acting version of that people in jail could receive that injection to where they have the benefit for months rather than, days or a week or so, to reduce that number of people who are dying when they first leave jail. So it's a small portion of the overall deaths, but it's something that we know what the cause is. And this grant from the federal government, from the Biden administration, is exactly what we need to help with that.
Wow. That number is still kind of ringing around in my head a little bit. Okay, so I like this long acting idea. That's, again, just like a very smart thing to do. So I'm curious because, we talked about the Texas legislature. It's starting up. We're here finally. What are some of the county's priorities for lawmakers this year? What are some of the things that you guys are wanting to get done?
Yeah, so the biggest one to help us with the Mental Health Diversion Center is helping find a place to build the Mental Health Diversion Center and a psychiatric hospital. So in Austin, Travis County, we have this great group called Integral Care that receives funding from the county, from the city, from the state, that they provide mental health care to people that can't afford it largely. They currently, if they put someone if someone needs to be in a psychiatric hospital, the only options in Austin and Travis County are for-profit psychiatric hospitals. And they do great work. I'm not saying anything bad about them, other than a public psychiatric hospital would have its focus 100% on the long-term well-being of that person who's in there. Whereas the for-profit ones, obviously they're helping people, they're helping stabilize them, but they still have that profit motive at the end of the day. And so what we want to do is build a mental health diversion center that includes a psychiatric hospital on the property that is currently held by the Austin State Hospital. So it's right here, right by Central Market, sort of 38th, Guadalupe, Lamar, and 45th. It's in those boundaries. And that's where it's a state-run mental institution for people who need that help, but it is full to capacity. They just built a brand new one, which is much, much, much better than the old one, but it's still full to capacity. On the place where the old building sits, we're asking the state legislature, let us lease that land from you for 99 years so that we can build this mental health diversion center that hopefully would interact well with the medical school and with the state hospital and with our law enforcement, our mental health offerings here. And that part of it would be a psychiatric hospital that could be run by Integral Care. And so that's the thing that I'm really hoping we succeed at the legislature. We've got great partners. There's a state senator from Lubbock who has been very supportive of expansion of the mental health diversion center in Lubbock. We toured it with Integral Care earlier this year. It's very good. It's a little smaller, I think, than we want here, but it's very good. It has the sort of intake, a stabilization part, and then it has a psychiatric hospital sort of at the back part of it. We're asking the same state senator. He's helping us get this through the legislature so that we can do more or less what they are doing in Lubbock.
Right. Okay. And so technically the spot is already there. They just have to give it to us.
Absolutely. So we worked last year with the State Health and Human Services Commission employees to talk about what it would look like, how it would interact with the different things there. And my impression is that they were very supportive of the idea, but they're like, look, this land is owned by the state of Texas, and the Texas legislature has to give you permission to do this lease there. Okay. And so that's what we're pursuing now is the ability to do that lease.
I feel like sometimes the state lawmakers have been, they're known to get involved in any way they can with local taxes. Is there anything that they could do to the child care tax rate, like that we approved? They can't take that away, can they, or do anything with that?
I mean, the state legislature is very powerful and county governments are an arm of the state. However, I also know the state legislature does respect voters, the will of voters. And since we took this to the voters and we didn't just sort of, wave a magic wand and voted on it ourselves as the commissioner's court, I think it sounds, what I'm hearing is that it has good support, not only for the way that we went about doing it, asking the voters for their approval, but also the fact that the state of Texas has had interim studies to look at this exactly the same question of how does the state of Texas go about providing more childcare to help improve the workforce and the economy of the state as a whole. I think we're leading on this. We're the first county to do it this way, and this will be the most robust program in the entire state of Texas. And my sense is that this is an issue that is also weighing on the minds of the legislature, and that they want to figure out ways to improve childcare. So I don't see it as a big point of contention between us and the state.
Nice. Thank you for easing my anxiety about that. I appreciate it. Yeah. Is there anything that you anticipate having to fight at the Capitol this session at all?
I think it's because I've lived in Texas pretty much my whole life, and I have realized that, it's better to build consensus, especially when you live in a state like this. I have strong disagreements with a lot of things that the legislature does, obviously, and they, feel probably the same way about me.
Right.
They're the ones that are our state legislature right now, and they're running the state government. And so my focus has been on these policy goals that help our community and just haven't been done for whatever reason. And so far, I think I've been able to work with folks of the opposing party and trying to come together and build consensus with them. And so, but to answer your question, the legislature, like the same folks that we're working on in partnership on, especially on the diversion center, I'm sure there's 100 other things that we wouldn't get along with them on, but
we'll see.
You got to do what we can.
Love it. So I want to talk about Travis County DA Jose Garza really quickly, because there's been a lot of threats. This just doesn't seem normal to me. Is it normal that he needs security?
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, we had two of the district judges in Travis County that asked to come speak to the commissioner's court to talk about their security situation. One of those two judges was actually the victim of an assassination attempt at her home. She was shot in front of her son and recovered, thankfully, and is now on the bench again and hearing cases again. Most elected officials in Travis County I've talked to have received some kind of threat. After hearing those two judges, one of those two judges actually also spoke, and I heard her speak with Senator John Cornyn, with a district attorney from Comal County, and one or two other folks talking about the threats they had received and how since COVID, in just the last couple of years, the number of threats has gone up so much to elected officials, even and especially at the local level, that it's something that is, it's a terrible situation. Whether I agree with them, whether I don't agree with them, whatever, they were put there by voters to do their jobs, and they should be able to do their jobs without having to worry about their life or their family's life. And so we're taking additional steps as a county to provide additional security to these judges and other elected officials, especially when they come and ask us for it. So I think anybody who questions that should take a look at, Senator Cornyn's committee that they had a presentation here in Austin. They had one in Brownsville to generally increase security around those who work in the courthouse. I think it's important. Again, I think it's not a partisan issue and something that we need to do.
I appreciate that because I agree. It's terrifying to be in danger because of your job. Yeah. But that's something that I have a hard time wrapping my head around, to be quite honest. Whether you agree with people or not, whether you agree with what they're doing or not, they're just doing their jobs. Is there anything else? Because I know you have to go. Is there anything else that you want to add that I haven't asked you about?
I mean, just, in general, on a good note, so we got $220 million from President Biden and Congressman Doggett and others who brought the Rescue Act about after COVID, the American Rescue Plan Act. And we immediately put over $100 million of that towards building affordable housing and supportive housing. And so we're well on the way to a lot of those projects coming to fruition. So we partnered with 11 different nonprofits, including Community First, including Integral Care, the Urban League, several others, to build things ranging from with Community First. I think they're building it's 600 or so folks community out on Burleson Road.
Wow.
Along with Foundation Communities. They're well on the way to making that happen. We gave them $35 million. We gave Foundation Communities $15 million. And then, the Dell Foundation, other philanthropists matched all that money. And it's on its way to being another great community for people who were formerly unhoused. But the supportive housing is something that is critical for us. If we're going to build this mental health diversion center, we need a place for people who need that support to live afterwards. A great example of this is something that Integral Care built 5 years ago or so, and I just went to the 5-year anniversary, and it's the Integral Care facility at Oak Springs, and they've got 50 residents. They've got counselors there. They've got support services, they have community centers, and people have been living there and thriving for 5 years. And so that's what I'm encouraged about, is that there's 10 or so other nonprofits building things similar to that. I think that's really that combined with this mental health diversion center, I think will transform our community once they're all up and running.
Judge Brown, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for bringing me up to speed and having a little chat. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I always feel smarter after we're done.
Me too. Awesome.
More informed.
I love talking with you. It's so easy to talk to. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Judge Brown's latest in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.